let's move on to our next fight. We move on to number 15. Molly McCann is fighting Taila Santos. In this fight right now, Molly McCann, she's 10-2. She's 30 years old, and she's 5 feet 2 inches tall, and she's 3-1 in the UFC. She lost her debut to Julian Robertson, who's proven to be a very tough top contender. And then you have Taila Santos, who's 15-1. She's 27 years old. She's 5 feet 4 inches tall, and she's competed as high as 145 pounds. And this fight is at 125 pounds.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about it.
So this fight, I mean, I'm gonna be real honest with you. While Taila's 15-1.
Yeah, it's Taila. Did I say Taila?
Yeah, Taila.
Yeah, it's Taila.
She's 15-1, but her record is very, very deceiving. I looked at her opponents for just the last 6 opponents she had. 3 of her last 6 opponents combined for like an 0-14 record.
Yeah.
She's got, you're talking 3 of her last 6, so that means she's at 9 wins by this point.
So she's a can crusher for sure.
8-9 wins at this point, and she's fighting people with 0-0 records, 0-1, 0-2.
She's a can crusher.
She's a can crusher. She's a can crusher. We're crushing cans, and she is a can crusher. She looks pretty small in a lot of her fights that I was watching, so that might be why. Maybe because she was fighting up in those weight classes. So 125 might be more of a natural home for her.
Maybe.
I just,
she's
McCann,
fought, as high as 145,
yeah.
But like you said, looks small.
Yeah, McCann, man. For me, McCann, she just looks relentless in a lot of her fights. That I said that earlier, relentless, and she's got this. For me, relentlessness is she's always coming forward and she's always throwing something.
Yep.
Even on the ground, she's going to be throwing something, and I like that from her. To me, that she's just got that relentless bulldog. I'm going to come at you and I'm going to win. And we saw one of her fights earlier where she beat Belbeat, who's fighting earlier on the card.
Fighting on the prelims.
And that was a good fight. But McCann controlled that fight for the majority of it.
McCann definitely controlled that fight.
So, like I said, Santos' record's full of girls with no wins, and so it's really hard for me to judge her. I watched, she looks like she has some skill. In that fight against Mara Romero Barella.
She looked pretty good in that fight. She showed that she did have some skill.
So that's what threw me off is like I watched that fight. That's a UFC fight, and it looks like she's got some decent skill.
But I'm gonna throw somebody else at you that you're gonna recognize the name very well, Ricky Simón. Mm-hmm. If you look at his early fights, he was definitely a can crusher. Yeah. I mean, you look at those fights. Some of those guys are like 0-23 or 1-15 or something like that in his early fights. That doesn't mean that he didn't have the skill, but what it meant that is he has the management, the team that was able to help him pad the record. Mm-hmm. So it could be deceiving a little bit.
Could be. That's why I said it was hard for me to really.
I think Ricky right now he's a top 5, maybe top 5. He's a top 10.
Definitely top 10.
I think he's a top 10, potentially a top 5 guy. I feel like if he gets back to the head movement that he used to have earlier on before the Titan FC days. I feel like if he gets back to that style of movement, he'll put himself in the top 5 for sure. Yeah. But I think he's a top 10 guy. But his record is deceiving as well. If you look at it, and we'll break it down. Yeah. I mean, I'll show you off air.
We'll get there.
He's definitely a can crusher, but it doesn't mean that he's not a top 10 guy right now. So the record can be a little bit deceiving. Mm-hmm. Molly McCann, she's also fought in Cage Warriors, though, which is the best European promotion. Right. You see a lot of our top guys that fight in the UK and in Europe. They come over and they all have competed through Cage Warriors. Yeah. If you're trying to get in the UFC from Europe, Cage Warriors is an excellent proving ground. She's fought there. Most of her wins do come by decision. And like you said, her last win was a decision over Belbita, who she's fighting
earlier in the card.
Yeah, so I think that I would agree with you overall, though. Taila Santos is a can crusher, and for that reason, and the fact that she did look good in that fight you were talking about, I give Molly McCann the decision in this fight. There you go. So I don't think she's going to finish her.
See, so we're close. I mean, Santos has pretty good cardio, and in that Barella fight, we saw that her cardio, because she came on really strong in the third after being dominated really in the first 2 rounds. Yep. And so she came on strong in the third, was able to stop the takedowns of Barella at that point, and started picking her apart. So her cardio's there, so it could very well go to a decision.
Yeah.
I think McCann is just going to be bigger and stronger in this fight. I think she's going to be able to take her down. I think she's going to be able to control her, and I think that by the third round, we're just going to see a McCann TKO.
Yeah.
I think it's possible.
So we both agree that it's going to go to the third round, though.
I do think, it's going to the third round.
We don't see it getting finished early.
I don't think either one of these girls are finishing each other early.
Awesome.
So it's going at least to the third round for me. I've got a third round TKO for McCann. Not even a knockout. It's just she's just going to get on top of her. I think she's just going to pummel her until the ref has to stop it.